Hey there, this is Grimwolf, and today we're talking MMOs. Specifically, I have taken what I believe to be some of the top MMOs on the market and focused on their character creation. These games are Black Desert Online, Elder Scrolls Online, Final Fantasy XIV, Guild Wars 2, Star Wars The Old Republic, and World of Warcraft. I have the same goal for each game, to create my ideal persona, which includes things like red hair, green eyes, a bow and arrow, and a slender yet muscular frame. I will rank them from 1 to 6 in 5 categories. Can I create the character I want to create? How many customization options does it have? How many non-cosmetic options does it have? How many options have a significant impact on the game, both the mechanics and the story? And lastly, how does it look in the creator versus in the actual game? After that, I will combine the numbers into the final ranking at the end of the video. Our first category is freedom. Can I create the character I want to create? The short answer is yes for all 6, but I still have to give them a rank. Star Wars The Old Republic falls at the bottom of this category. The simple reason for this is that if you don't subscribe to the game, most of the races are locked, or you have to purchase them individually. None of the other games lock race options like this, free to play or not. Next is the Elder Scrolls Online. While all race options were available to me, there are 4 human variants and 3 elf variants, meaning that there are only 5 different species options, despite how the 10 race options makes it seem. This has always been true of the Elder Scrolls franchise, but as the most recent installment, I would have hoped the race options would be more diverse, even if that just means making the existing ones look more unique. Of all the games on this list, World of Warcraft is the first one I played and the one I still play the most. But that doesn't make me blind to its flaws. While the game has more race options than any other on this list, once you actually get into the nitty-gritty of creating a character, there isn't much you can do to make yourself stand apart from the millions of other players. The first of the top 3 is Final Fantasy XIV. It would have landed higher in this category if it didn't have 2 gender-locked races, the Viera and the Hrothgar. My ideal character would have been a male Viera bard, but I suppose I'll have to settle for a Miqo'te instead. The number 2 game in this category is Black Desert Online. The only reason it isn't number 1 is because this MMO combines the race, class, and gender choices. They all come in one big package. Did you want to play a male tamer? Too bad, you're a girl now. Aside from that, you truly can create whatever you want once you choose a class, and that's amazing. To my surprise, a game I haven't played in years placed first in this category. Guild Wars 2 certainly doesn't boast a lot of race options, but does allow me to determine my character's body type and choose a backstory that fits the character I'm going for. The second category takes a look at how many cosmetic options each game has, but it is more than a simple numbers game. I'm also looking at how impactful the options that exist are. Being able to change the body size and proportions will go a long way. World of Warcraft has 23 race options. That is more than double any other game on this list. However, that is where the abundance of choice stops. The options once a race is chosen are very slim. Supposedly more customization options are coming in the near future, but until then, I find WoW lacking in this department. In a reversal, Guild Wars 2 falls low in this category. In terms of actual cosmetic options, there aren't many. The coolest thing about the creation process is that you can dye your armor in the creator, but even with this feature, there isn't much you can do. Star Wars The Old Republic has a lot of preset options disguised as sliders. It looks like more than it is, specifically where body size is concerned, but it still has more than the games below it in this category. Once again at number 3 is Final Fantasy XIV. It falls in the middle because it has a moderate number of options, including a slider for height, but unfortunately not one for weight. Rising up the ranks is Elder Scrolls Online. It has a ton of customization options which include a wide array for sliders for both height, weight, muscle tone, and face shape. But I don't think even ESO stood a chance against the number 1 game in this category. Black Desert Online. There was never a competition when it came to BDO's massive amount of customization possibilities. There is a slider for everything, and each individual body part can be dragged and changed to whatever proportion you can imagine. Even some of the hair options can be made longer or curlier. The next category will look at how many non-cosmetic options each game has. As someone who plays games for the story, this is very important to me. Black Desert Online is mostly just a pretty face. Since it ties race and class together, class becomes a cosmetic option. This leaves choosing your astrological sign as the only non-cosmetic choice you get to make. Elder Scrolls Online didn't make the cut for this one either. The only non-cosmetic options are the 6 class options and 3 faction options. Considering how much ESO depends on the story to be the focal point of the game, you would think some of that would bleed into the character creator. Star Wars The Old Republic has a similar problem to ESO, where class and faction are the only non-cosmetic options in the creator. The only reason it stands above it is that the class options all have 2 subclass options. At number 3 is World of Warcraft. It lands here in the category for the sheer volume of 12 class options. It also has 2 factions, though that choice is mostly determined by which race you pick. Finally moving up is Final Fantasy XIV. It has WoW beat by its 16 class options, though you don't have access to all of them if you are a new player. These will be unlocked as you get your character to higher levels. Aside from that, you also get to choose your patron deity and birthday. Number 1 in non-cosmetic options is Guild Wars 2. It has 9 class options as well as options specific to each race pertaining to your class, your moral alignment, your backstory, and patron deity. It didn't take much to win this category. At this point, we move into tougher questions. This category will look at how impactful the decisions you make in the character creator are on the game as a whole. Back at the bottom is Black Desert Online. While the characters you create are beautiful, the only choice you make that has any effect on your game is your class, which simply changes your abilities and combos. From a story standpoint, there is nothing you can do that will make your experience different from everyone else's. Before the days of Tamriel Unlimited, Elder Scrolls Online would have ranked higher. Now, however, the only choice you make that affects the game is your class, and that is mostly just a mechanical difference with abilities and skill trees. Your faction does affect your PvP experience, but that is it. Before Tamriel Unlimited, your faction was linked to specific races, and it would determine your starting point in the world. This meant that your play experience was vastly different from players in other factions. Now you can be whatever faction you want, and go wherever you want, and everything just scales with your level. Currently, race choice in Final Fantasy XIV seems to be simply cosmetic. I have never had it affect the game in any way. That said, your class has a huge impact on your play experience. Firstly, it determines where you begin the game. Then, alongside the main scenario, every class has a class questline that is specifically for them, and these continue through all 3 of the game's expansions in some form or another. World of Warcraft is one of the top MMOs out there, but it is not perfect. At present, the only choice other than class that affects the game is your race and faction, which go hand in hand. Choosing a race determines your starting location. If you choose one of the new allied races, you start at your faction capital. This means that there are over 15 different starting locations. However, with the new level squish looming and a funneling of new players into the same starting scenario, all that racial uniqueness will soon be disappearing. As a side note, class identity was a huge focus of the Legion expansion, while faction identity was a huge focus of the Battle for Azeroth expansion. For once, Star Wars The Old Republic is ranking fairly high. While race has little effect on the game, class choice is the game. There are 8 classes, which means that there are 8 different main storylines. I haven't played any of the game's expansions, so I don't know if it continues, but the base game focuses 100% on your class. Guild Wars 2 is a prime example of how to integrate player choice into a game. When you choose a race, it comes with a set of questions at the final stages of character creation. The background-related question has a direct effect on your game and how it plays out. There are 5 races and each have 3 background questions and 3 backstory questions. If I'm doing my math right, that's about 45 different ways the main story could play out. No wonder there are only 5 race options. The last category each game must go through questions how your character looks in the creator versus in the game. This isn't a comparison of graphics or textures. This is a critique that is contained within each game. It will also take into account how many opportunities the game gives us to see our painstakingly created characters in different lights and from different angles. And at the bottom once again is Black Desert Online. There is no question that this game can be visually stunning. However, at least on the PS4, you can't zoom into your character, so all that work you did in the creator goes down the drain almost immediately. On top of that, every cutscene is first person, so you never get to see your character in all its cinematic glory. From my perspective, BDO's character creator is one of its only saving graces as an MMO, so why would the devs choose not to put that asset at the forefront as much as they possibly can? Next is Elder Scrolls Online. The character looks mostly the same in-game. However, like all Elder Scrolls games, there are no cutscenes, so there is never an opportunity for you to see your character, other than from behind unless you turn the camera around. Going from the creator to the game in World of Warcraft was interesting. The devs have yet to go back in and update the old starting armor sets for older races. So, since I started as a Blood Elf, I was wearing armor from Burning Crusade. Since the camera is more zoomed out in-game than in the creator, the armor actually looked less pixelated in-game. The main reason WoW beat ESO in this category is that in later expansions like Battle for Azeroth, your character appears in brief cutscenes. Guild Wars 2 is interesting in that it doesn't have traditional cutscenes. It puts 2 NPCs on the screen with an appropriate background, and they talk that way. Your character will appear in these cutscenes and is actually voiced, which can be a good or bad thing depending on the player. I like it. This is an opportunity to see your character from somewhere other than behind. While your character in Star Wars: The Old Republic doesn't look much different in-game, there are extensive cutscenes that always feature your character. A lesson that games like BDO could learn from games with less graphic capability is that graphics aren't always the most important thing. I want to feel involved in a story, and putting my character in a cutscene achieves that. The game that is the crowning jewel of character integration is Final Fantasy XIV. The story in this game is at the forefront of everything, and your character is involved every step of the way. The cutscenes in this game are cinematic and highlight your character in all the best ways. All MMOs should look to Final Fantasy XIV for an idea of how to make the player feel important. And now the time has come to reveal my ranking for Best Character Creator in an MMO. I've done this simply by adding the scores together up to this point, and I believe the scores accurately reflect which game has the best character creator. At number 6 is The Elder Scrolls Online. A character creator is not all about how many customization options you have, even though ESO has the second most. All those options go to waste if you can't see them while playing the game, and if the non-cosmetic options have no impact on the game. At number 5 is Black Desert Online. I know this may come as a surprise to a lot of people, but good character creation isn't all about a pretty face, even though it is a very pretty face. All the work put into this creator vanishes the moment you step into the game. The next two games actually tied, but at number 4 I decided to put World of Warcraft, because it doesn't feature the player character enough through the use of cutscenes or dialogue, even though the non-cosmetic faction option heavily affects the game. At number 3 is Star Wars: The Old Republic. Unlike World of Warcraft, the player character is front and center in the story and visible on screen the whole time. Not only that, but the choice of class makes the entire game possible. And then there were two. I'm going to reveal the top 2 games at the same time because I like the dramatic flair. While I play one of these games regularly, and have even written a review for its latest expansion, I haven't played the other in over a year, so I was surprised to find myself ranking it so highly, and I'm wondering why I stopped playing it. It's time. The MMO with the best character creation is Guild Wars 2. This means that Final Fantasy XIV is number 2. Final Fantasy XIV has the best story of any MMO I've ever played, and its extensive cutscenes do a lot to showcase the player character. However, the reason it didn't make rank number 1 is for the simple fact that the choices made in the character creator don't affect the main scenario. They heavily affect the class questline, but that's a side feature. Thus, at number 1 is Guild Wars 2. Though there aren't a lot of race or cosmetic options, Guild Wars 2 is the only game that has non-cosmetic options separate from race that have a huge impact on the game. With 45 possible storylines for players to follow, the possibilities are endless. On top of that, your character is featured in all of the uniquely set up dialogue exchanges, so that none of that cosmetic work goes to waste. Hey there, this is Grimwolf. Thank you so much for watching our video. We truly appreciate it. If you don't want to miss anything, please subscribe and leave a like while you're down there. We post new videos every week. Between our Dungeons & Dragons campaign, video game reviews, and other gaming content, there is something for everyone. See you next week.